Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Stansell Wealth Podcast. Cody Stansell here, certified financial planner and founding member of Stansell Wealth Planning. Thank you so much for joining us. I have a special guest for us here today, Gerard Ibarra. Gerard, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing very good. Thank you for asking. It's certainly much warmer out there today than it was a couple of weeks ago, so I'm doing really good now.
Yes. So for anyone listening or watching, it's early mid-February right now, and we just got through the ice. What do they call it? Alaska is what people are throwing around. I think that's so offensive to people actually in Alaska that have 6 feet of snow and ice. You know, it's like, okay,
you guys, that's t-shirt weather for us. Stop being such a wimp.
Yes, exactly. So I thought that was kind of comical. But yes, Gerard, we're about to walk through. You have a company. It's called Keep It Saved, right? And we'll walk through the details. But I thought it would be great for my listeners, especially anyone that's ever been an executor of someone's estate, or maybe had a recent parent pass away, that have gone through the task of, we got a bank account over here, and we have assets over here, and just the process of finding people's details and wishes. And I know you'll go into it a little bit more, but let me officially introduce you, and then we'll dive in. I have a few questions, and we'll just go from there. So Keep It Saved is a secure digital vault for family continuity and legacy planning. The platform is designed to reduce the stress and confusion families face during difficult times by giving them clear access to the documents and information they need most. Users can store essential items like wills, trusts, and death certificates, and also leave guidance for heirs, executors, and beneficiaries on how to access and manage online accounts after they're gone. Beyond the practical side, Keep It Saved also gives families a place to preserve cherished memories, letters, and personal messages, the stories and moments that help loved ones feel connected long after someone has passed. Okay. So besides that of what I read, walk me through what Keep It. Thank you. You wrote it, so I don't want to take credit for that. Tell us what Keep It Saved is all about.
So if I brought it all down to a nutshell, imagine you leave work today, or you're on your way home and you never make it home. Will your family know how to access your accounts, close out your social media, and honor your farewell wishes? And that's what we do. We have a legacy planning, family continuity planning digital vault. All the critical data that you need to continue life, to continue moving forward, is stored in our system. So that's what Keep It Safe is. And what brought that about, if I can say that, is my brother-in-law passed away unexpectedly. So he's of the era where when you're sick, you don't go to the doctor. Unless you're dying, you go to the doctor. So he was dying. He really was. He had to go to the emergency room, and apparently he had an appendix that erupted. So he had an appendix erupted for 3 days. He was living with that. So they took care of him. They operated, and he felt much better. As a matter of fact, 24 hours later, he left the hospital. So about 3 days later, he started getting a little bit sick again, and he was starting to feel a little bit of pain. And then to make a long story short, after about 3.5 weeks, he was sending my wife a picture of his hand, and it was completely swollen. I mean, it was like completely swollen. And I told my wife, I said, you better tell him to get his ass to the doctor here. That is not right. That is just not right. So after about a few days, he finally made it out to the doctor. The doctor wouldn't return his call, so he had his wife drive him from where they live. They live in Salt Lake, or a suburb of Salt Lake, so they had to go into Salt Lake, and the doctor didn't even come out to see him. He just told his RN to tell him to go to the emergency room. So he went to the emergency room, and they had to do another operation, and then they found that he had pancreatic cancer. So they gave him about 6 months to live. They asked him, you need to get your affairs in order. And then 5 weeks later, he was no longer here. So with everything that was going on when they got that news, his wife didn't want to spend any time trying to figure out how things are done at the house, because they've been married 47 years. And He just took care of all the bills. She did everything else. So after all the grief and having to bury him, she was having a very hard time trying to get the accounts to pay her water bill, to pay the cable, whatever bills she had. And she actually found the passwords to get into accounts written down on a desk. So they were written down, just handwritten on a desk. It had the passwords, but it didn't say what accounts they went to. So after she was able to do trial and error, and she says, great, I found one. What happens next? She gets a 2-factor notification saying, we just sent you a PIN. Just give her that PIN, you could get in here. So she's looking at the phone that buzzed, but she has no access to it. So it took her about a year to get all the data finally squared away. And as of today, there's still one account she doesn't have access to. It's paying the cable. She just says once it runs out of money, it runs out, and we'll just go from there. But it's just too much pain for her. And during all this time, my wife said, wouldn't it be good or wouldn't it be great if there was a way of having all this stored in one location? And that's where Keep It Safe was born. So that's what we're doing. That's what Keep It Safe is all about, is helping families focus on their loved ones' memories, not trying to focus on what am I going to do next, how am I going to pay the bills. Honor their legacy, then worry about the logistics because you have all the information readily available to you.
Yeah, and and God bless you, and I'm sorry to hear about that. But yeah, we all go through, I've been married 13 years, and all the clients I sit down with, if they're married, naturally there's one spouse that is the CFO of the family, pays the bills, knows the money going in, going out, and the other spouse, in my particular case, is kind of clueless, right? Like she couldn't even tell you like where money goes and where's our retirement accounts. I don't think she'd be able to answer that. So, which, she has her focus, the house and the kids and all that, right? And there's certain strengths that we both have. But then it goes a step further, and you brought up a good point, like the password to her phone. Even if the login, the username, the password of these certain like social media sites, I know that's a big one now, that if you pass away, someone has your password and username so they can go in and erase your account or do the things that are needed. So yeah, that's definitely in the tech age becoming more common as a need and not necessarily as a want. Walk me through, who do you see Keep It Saved is for? Like what type of person would benefit from this?
So the people who would really benefit the most are really anybody, those people who, it's more about thinking about your family than thinking about yourself. So for example, it's for those individuals who, like you and like me, a certain part of the family takes care of everything, but if something was to happen to you, you don't want your spouse, your significant other, going through all the pain and agony of how do I do this, how do I do that? So it's for individuals who really want to look after their families, who think a little bit more beyond just, we'll let them take care of it after I'm gone. We use it specifically right now for employers that want to give this as an employee benefit, as a perk, because you don't have to pass away to use the system. If there's a tornado that destroys your house, for example, having all the documents readily available, and I'm not just talking about the insurance, I'm talking about, for example, the interior of your house, the exterior of your house, pictures, plat, a survey, a diagram, your elevation. Having all that information readily available will help the recovery process go much, much quicker. So for the employee, they don't have to spend more time out of work or thinking outside of work when they have a plan to say, okay, I know I have everything I need, I'm ready to go, and it allows them to get back to work sooner than later. So it's more than just that, and it's also for people who want to continue their legacy. So my mom's going to be turning 100 years old in a few months. I hope I have her genes.
Happy birthday, Mom. That's great.
I'm telling you. And we did an interview of her, and I asked her questions like, okay, tell me about World War II, what were you doing? Tell me about JFK, the men landing on the moon, Martin Luther King. And she was telling me, these are the things that were going on. But one of the things that we always did at my mom's house, we would all get together there because she was always cooking. She was making these homemade tortillas. She was making Mexican food, rice, beans, fajitas. And I asked her, I said, and we had the family back there, and said, okay, I asked her the question. I said, so tell us, why did you like to cook so much? And without missing a beat, she just looked at me and says, I didn't. And everybody behind me started yelling and stuff. And I said, shut the hell up. We're in the middle of an interview. So I asked her, I said, so what do you mean you didn't like to cook? I mean, you were always cooking for us. We'd come over, my friends would come over, and you're always cooking. She says, well, you didn't know how to cook. No one else was going to cook. So I cooked. And it was just a matter of fact, and we were just all stunned. So something like that we never knew is now recorded. So in Keep It Safe, you have a session called Videos and Pictures. You could actually store that information so that generations later could see that. I'm not talking about her grandchildren. I'm talking about her great-great-great-grandchildren. You could leave messages such as when I graduated high school or when I first got married, just so that you have an idea of who your great-great-grandparents were. So it's about legacy planning as well. It fits anybody who wants to really continue the legacy and be prepared in case of an emergency.
Wow. That's great. So that's a great segue. Walk me through, if you don't mind sharing your screen and kind of giving us a little demo of, realistically, what does it look like? How does it operate? What are the capabilities here?
Let me know if you see the screen.
I can see it. And real quick, if you're listening to the podcast, you may want to pause and switch over to watching it on YouTube. So if you just search Stansell Wealth Planning on YouTube, the podcast, it'll come up. So we're about to go over a visual, so listeners may want to become viewers. Go ahead, Gerard.
Certainly, thank you. So when you log on, and by the way, everything is, just so that you know, this is more secure than like a digital Dropbox or a Google Drive. We use the entire platform was built from the ground up with security in mind. So even before you can get onto your account, you're forced to do a two-factor authentication. You're never given the option to trust this computer or anything like that. So when you log on, this is your dashboard. And real quick on the top left, you'll see this little box here. It's called My Vault. I'm 73% completed. I'm on the premium plan. I've got 0.05 gigabytes out of 5 gigabyte storage, and I have 3 representatives. To the right is this section that's called critical data. If you were to click on the critical data, this is where you would enter all that information. And I just got logged out. There is a timeout here, by the way. So give me one second here to get back on.
If I had a nickel for every time I had a client meeting and, okay, let me show you the screen, and I go to it and click on a button and have to re-log in.
Yes, so it was working just perfectly here. Give me 1 second. I'm getting the two-factor authentication. So at least now you know that it does work.
You're showing us the encryption here.
I am just showing you that you have to do this.
No, that's great.
All right. Oh, my gosh. Now I had the wrong invalid code. Sorry, one more try here. Okay. So the critical data up here is the information where you would put in like your PIN code for your phone number, your email address, passcode, and your computer PIN as well. So all this information is very critical. And then, of course, to the right, you have the license, Social Security, passport, military ID. You could even upload a picture of the license here. So kind of gives you an example of what you're seeing there.
You look good, Gerard.
I'm sorry?
You look good in that driver's license.
Yeah, that's me about 45 years ago.
Sorry, not to throw you off your game.
So that's the critical data. That's something that when you set up your account, it'll ask you to fill that out. You don't have to fill that in. You could do whatever you want with this account. But under accounts, this is where, and this is free, by the way, this one section here is free. So this is what we're giving back to society. The typical family, when someone passes away, they lose on average $2,000. And that's because they didn't know if some bank account, IRA, insurance, 401, whatever the case may be. So this is what we're giving back. You could go on and sign on for this portion of the Keep It Saved. And there's no credit card required. So it's not like we're going to bill you after 2 weeks for the yearly subscription. But you put in all your information here, banks, for example. You could click on here and you see the banks. You could edit them and delete them. And when you add a bank, and just so that we make this clear, the only thing you need here is the name of the bank. You don't need the account, the URL, passwords, any of that information. You could put as much or as little as you want. The thing that we want to make sure in that we force is if you're going to put in information, give us the name, because at least if something happens to you, there is a starting place for everything that you're doing there.
Yeah,
and
you can at least call the bank if you don't know any of the other information. You at least know that they have a bank account there.
Exactly. Yeah. So the one thing that really separates us from our competition is what we call the farewell wishes. So if you go on here, you'll notice I have funeral, organ, body disposition, logistics, all the way to farewell messages. So real quick, like under funeral, you could actually plan everything out, what attire you're going to have, burial information, flowers, funeral music, all the way down to prayers, chants, and religious spiritual leaders. Now, under pictures and videos, this is where you would put a picture or a video that you want to use when you send out information, and I'll tell you what that is here in a second. So if I go back to this group here, you'll notice I have logistics and events. It's also important. This tells you what are some of the things that you got to make sure, who you need to notify, what tasks you have to complete after you're gone, what services you need to cancel. So it goes into real details of that. But what really separates us is this here, contacts. You could actually put in contacts here of all of your friends and families. And I'm not talking your LinkedIn network, but just people who are close to you. And you could group them by cycle, family and friends. You could manage the groups. You could add groups. And what you end up doing with those is you'll come to your farewell messages, and you could actually create very specific messages, like for your family, for your friends, for your coworkers.
Wow.
And your representative will just come in here and hit one of these action buttons and send the message. So you notice that this was sent back in September. So, and this went out to, if you click on here, the edit button, you notice that it's going out to my school's friends, and here's the message. If you're reading this, I'm no longer here, and I included a photo. So that's what you can do to really help in the process. And one thing that happened here, that happened to me just recently, when my older brother passed away, we didn't have this product finished yet. It was about 2 to 3 months away. And what ended up happening is that I was group texting everybody about the funeral arrangements, and I happened to miss one group. And of course, they were a little upset, and I could understand why, but I just had a lot going on. So under the farewell section, you could actually send out a message to everybody and make sure no one is forgotten. So it kind of helps with that process in the end. And then if you'll notice here, I have legal documents, medical. Here under medical, I have all my mom's medical information, which is really important because she's in a nursing home, so they need information. And the last thing I'll show you here is video and pictures. This is where I talked earlier about saying that you could put in, I guess, those videos or pictures of your family so that the loved ones get to cherish them for the years to come. And you notice here I have one that's called birthday, and you could actually go in here and see what that is. And I'm not going to show you on this because it might be eating up too much bandwidth, but it's all about planning there. So if I go back to my dashboard, and I'll finish up here, these are the people here that you give access to. You can give as much or as little access as you want. So if we go in here and view these individuals, let's go into this one, the son. If I go into edit, this is the person and it's the son. But if I go into this little widget here, permission and access, if you remember critical data, this person has no access. They cannot read or write anything. But if I go to accounts, you'll notice that this individual, Jerry, he could see what's on the banks, but he can't write, he can't download. Under IRAs, he has no visual. He can't do anything. But for these last two, annuities and retirement plans, he can actually go in there, download, upload, change passwords, what have you. So that's the thing about our product. It really allows you to create that legacy and give access to those individuals that need access. So my lawyer has access, my CPA has access, my wife has access to the accounts. And here you can see everything that's going on, what they've been doing. So if something's taking place where someone's doing a lot of things, you could go in there and say, hey, why, Jerry, what do you keep on doing here? I'm going to go ahead and revoke you. So you could actually come in here and revoke them. So that's it in a nutshell. I'm going to log out here. Of course, you have the information here, all the data. You can see what kind of subscription they have. And that's it in a nutshell. So hopefully that kind of paints a overview of what we're able to do with the product.
Yeah, that's incredible. And obviously, from a financial standpoint, my mind goes to my clients, and I have a slew of clients that they're in their 60s. Yep, mom passed away. She was late 80s, and just going through she had 2 bank accounts over here. They had a piece of land over here. They had a CD, certificate of deposit over there. Like from the financial account standpoint, this would be super nice from two standpoints. I'm just coming to the realization like this, so I'll just speak what's in my brain. You can obviously have this on you. I want my spouse and my heirs and anyone involved, but then also, mom's in her mid 80s. Let's go ahead and start this for her account, right? And that way we can upload photos and go through her accounts and her wishes and just start that now. That way it is kind of set up. So I can think of it as twofold. But anyways, as a financial planner, my mind just goes to the accounts and assets. But really, this is like a sentimental, your wishes, your desires, memories, all the qualitative things as well, whereas my mind goes to the quantitative. But it's really both.
It certainly is. That's why it's family continuity for those times that you need access to data, to accounts, but that family legacy as well. You store love letters, pictures, old family photos. And you made a comment here, and during my research, I was talking to this lady who works for a funeral company, and she was telling me where people spend most of their time when it comes to funeral planning is in pictures and videos. She says they spend almost half of all their time putting together a slideshow of their loved one that passed away. So, what I say is, if you have that, why not do it yourself? Because your family is going to think of you one way, and you say, no, that's not how I want you to remember me. These are the pictures I want you to use. So be in control there. Tell them this is what you are. This is who you were. Don't let them second guess I think he would have liked this or he would have liked that. No, this is what I like. So.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Last thing. So walk us through just basic pricing.
Certainly.
Where can we find more information?
So you can go to our website, keepitsaved.com, and you can go into pricing. It's $10 a month, or you could do $100 for the year. And that gets you the platform and all the upgrades that we go along with it. So it's very robust. And like I said, it's about the individuals really trying to take care of their family and loved ones when they're no longer there. I guess some of that responsibility falls on us to make sure that we do that and take care of our family when we're not here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So would you like to give us your information, where people can find you, or do you prefer them go to the website and submit an inquiry?
They could reach out to me specifically. So the email address would be Gerard, Gerard, at keepitsaved, SAVED.com. You could send me an email, or you could actually go to the website as well. We have a contact, or you could call me at 972-696-9176. So 3 ways of reaching out to me. And of course, you could go into my LinkedIn profile. I think you'll find me there. So
what's your address? What's your fax number? We'll go through all the means of communication.
No fax number.
I'm joking. No, Gerard, this was fantastic. Thank you for walking us through this. I think there's a lot of people that certainly benefit from this, either from the emotional standpoint, from the financial standpoint, or from both, for yourself, for the generation above you, generation below you. I think this is fantastic.
Well,
so thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me on your show. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to the Stansell Wealth Podcast. This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. It is general in nature and may not apply to your specific situation. Please consult with a professional before acting on any information shared in this podcast pertaining to financial, investment, legal, or tax advice. The views expressed by Cody and his guests do not necessarily represent those of Charles Schwab, Victory Financial Group, or any other organization.